What to do when your girlfriend is upset with you but will only text and not meet up for a week. Sounds like stonewalling.
Oh, that's stonewalling. Well, in that case, because there's a lot of women that are like that. That's what they learned from their family. It's like, you're mad, you're pissed off, you're going to get it, fucker. You're going to be talking to her voicemail and she's going to be ignoring you. I just need some time. I don't want to talk about it right now. And when they feel like you've suffered enough, they reach back out. And you're going to have to communicate that I don't want to like not talk for a week because you're mad at me. It's like every time we have a bump in the road and you're just going to not talk to me or answer me for 3 or 4 days and punish me. That's not very loving. That's cruel. It's emotional, mental, and it's emotional and mental and verbal abuse. It's an abusive type of behavior, and it's not loving. If you love somebody and you're upset, you got to be able to speak from your heart and tell what's going on so you can arrive at a solution together. If you're mad at somebody and you just seek to punish them and you in essence go no contact, or you ignore them, or you tell them you don't want to talk to them and you stay away from them for several days, now you're putting the relationship on hold and you're punishing and you're torturing the other person. That's abusive. It's not loving behavior. And you have to let her know, it's like, this doesn't work for me. It's like, if you're mad, we got to talk it out. I don't want to not speak to my girlfriend for 4 or 5 days. And because I had one that did that to me. And, eventually I got fucking sick of it because I never knew what I was doing or saying that she got upset about, because she was suffering from trauma, childhood trauma and ghosts from relationship past that she was dealing with. And so her go-to position was to assume the worst. And then I was doing something to slight her. And she would just say, I don't want to talk about it. And she'd literally hang the phone up on me. Wouldn't talk. And I wouldn't hear from her for 3 or 4 days. And then she'd get back in touch and be in a good mood. And she just wouldn't want to talk about it. And you don't know why she's pissed off. But now all of a sudden she's in a good mood again after 4 or 5 days. And it's like, so when, on a monthly basis, there's about a week where we don't talk and don't interact because she's pissed off about something. It's like, after enough of that and having enough conversations and she's unwilling to speak to you in a loving way, I was like, I pulled the plug. I'm out. I'm just not going to put up with that.
Or there's
when you get used to women that communicate like adults and they would never do that to you, they would let you know right on the spot that they're upset and they'll want to talk about it and resolve it. It's like that's abusive. The guy's in an abusive relationship and he needs to set and enforce some healthy boundaries. And unfortunately, because this woman's an adult, I assume that he's dating, they're not like teenagers or whatever, is that she's been this way for decades. It's like, you're not going to fix her. You're not going to be able to use 3% man to turn her into the perfect woman. You can set the healthy boundary and let her know of your standards, and she can either comply or she'll continue to violate it. And then if she just refuses to change or refuses to treat you the way you want, you either put up with it or you leave and go find somebody else. And like, for me, because I want women in my life that bring peace in my life, that's how I live. And a woman that's going to disturb my peace is not going to be around. It's as simple as that. It's harsh, it's mean, but you got to protect your own mental health and well-being, because there's lots of people out in the world that are fucked up, that were raised in dysfunctional families, and if you get involved with them, they're going to abuse you in the same ways that they were abused. And if they're unwilling to work on themselves and communicate in an adult, mature, loving manner, then it's not your job to fix or to save them. That's her problem. So he should speak to her and set the boundary, but she'll probably continue to violate it. And eventually at some point you're going to have to pull the plug, because most of the time I don't see women that behave that way getting better. They just keep doing it. They're calm for a few weeks or a month or so, and then something else happens and they do the same thing all over.
So basically, this girl, you talk to her. It sounds like you've tried to talk to her and you've tried to have a mature conversation.
I gave her 6 months to turn it around, and I kept telling her, and she just didn't care. She's fucking one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. And everywhere she went, men like drooled at her. And so her attitude was like, oh, I'll just find somebody else and he'll put up with it. Because there's a lot of guys that would put up with that shit, but I wasn't going to.
Didn't she study psychology?
Yep.
Yeah. From my impression of the viewer,
she had no dad. Dad died at like 6 of a drug overdose.
Yeah.
So there was no father figure. So she doesn't trust men. She has daddy issues. The guy that, she had a kid with who was, pretty much an adult when we started dating. Same thing. He kind of abandoned her and her son. And so her father wasn't there. The guy was the father of her child, wasn't there. And so how else could she think any differently? That's all she's known her whole life, is that men are unreliable. And that's where she comes from. And I wasn't going to change her mind. I mean, she was like 32, 33 at the time. I was like, I couldn't, all my skills, I'm not gonna fix that. And especially, after having dated a woman like Katie was, where like that never ever happened once. She never even raised her voice at me in the 20-something years we've known each other. And so when you're used to that, when you're used to, having adult mature relationships, it's like, yeah, a woman like that comes along, you're like, on to the next.
What the viewer question, like the impression I get is basically sounds like he's trying to have like a very mature conversation with this girl. It made her uncomfortable. She'll try to find a way to gaslight and manipulate him and try to make him feel bad, to a point
Blame
where
him,
maybe,
make him
yeah,
think it was actually his fault.
yeah, and then has the goal to stonewall him. And I would say not to throw that word around because some of you guys may not have experienced this before. But from my experience, that is one of the many, many traits of someone who has narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah. Yeah, they can't take any kind of criticism. They don't ever admit they did anything wrong. It's always your fault or somebody else's fault.
Every
They're
fight
always
feels
a
like it'll be the last
victim.
fight, basically.
Yeah, they're always a victim. They've always been wronged and slighted. Poor me.
I feel like that happens in a lot of relationships nowadays. People, they just try to like close off to like whether if your significant other did something wrong, you should feel comfortable with talking to them about it. But a lot of people now, they don't want to have the
Well, if they
confrontation.
didn't grow up in an environment where they saw that modeled for them, it's like they don't know any better. If they were taught stonewalling from their parents or whoever raised them, that's what they know. They are stonewallers themselves.
I mean, I'm not a person of confrontation. I don't like confrontation, but if there's something wrong and I feel there's something that needs to be talked about, usually I bring it up and I try to not be like angry about it and just to talk about it. But then I've been in situations where I come out and kind of, try to make the situation better, and the other person's just kind of like, nope, I'm not talking about this with you. No. And they just kind of like walk off. I'm like, it took me, you know, courage to to try to confront you about it, and I'm trying to talk to you like an adult, and then you just walk away. And then now it's just left unresolved, and all that stuff that's happened every time you walk away, that's just building up, building up, and building up, and it's just making me not want to be with somebody who I can't communicate with if you can't communicate back.
It's unstable, and it's not a really good, pleasant place to be.
No, it's just like you're not, like, women want to be heard and understood, and you're not hearing me. And when you're not hearing me, you're not understanding me.
Yeah, you can't solve problems unless you can talk openly and honestly about them. And somebody that stonewall you, they're not even allowing you to talk about anything. They're not even willing to address it. Their first instinct is to punish you because they're upset or they're mad or they're sad or they feel hurt for whatever reason, whether it's justified or not. But their attitude is it's your fault and you're going to get it. You're going to get punished.